wrestling promo is an art form in its own right. What seems like simply nattering into a microphone actually takes a ton of skill, and there are people in the business that have dedicated their entire careers to mastering it. That being said, nobody bats 1,000, and the following entries are all examples of when the best of the best got tongue-tied. Anyway, I'm Sam Driver I'm Adam Pacitti from Cultaholic Wrestling, and these are the 10 worst wrestling promos from great talkers. Join us. Number 10, The Rock's WrestleMania intro. When it comes to putting butts in seats through talking alone, you could argue that nobody is better than Dwayne the Dwayne Dwayneson, aka The Rock. Rocky's electric, see what I did there, promo style is what made him a household name, so much so that he eventually became a Hollywood megastar through sheer charisma alone. Because let's face it, nobody would have gone to see Skyscraper if the Brahma Bull hadn't been on the poster. With so much talent coursing through his veins, you would have thought that The Rock would have been able to carry any situation with a microphone in his hands. Sadly, this isn't the case, as the opening of WrestleMania 27 proves. As guest host of this cursed event, Rock opened the show by addressing the Atlanta crowd. He made fun of John Cena, got the crowd to chant yabba dabba with him for some reason, and rambled on for several painful minutes of awkward attempted comedy. You could see the sweat starting to form on Dwayne's brow as he desperately tried to think of what to say next. Unfortunately for everyone in attendance, this was a sign of things to come. Number 9, The Undertaker's ride through the desert. Whilst nobody is rushing to put The Undertaker on the Mount Rushmore of great promo guys, there is no denying that when given the right material, he can churn out a spine-tingling speech more often than not. On the August 16th, 1999 episode of Raw, the Phenom walked down to the ring with his new tag team partner Big Show in tow. The two Goliaths had been working together for a few weeks, with Taker teaching Paul White how to unlock his killer instinct. He then proceeded to torture everyone in the building with one of the most nonsensical promos in WWE history. What started out as a story about Taker and Show riding motorcycles into the desert, which was already a red flag seeing as this was still Ministry-era Undertaker, not the American badass, quickly divulged into a long mangled tale about how Show carried the bike on his back through the searing heat and made a necktie out of a snake. He probably should have used the snake for food, but fashion is fashion, darling. This whole thing was just one gigantic mess, made worse by Chris Jericho interrupting it and pointing out just how dumb it all was. Number 8, Dean Ambrose's butt injections. Though he's best known as a no-nonsense brawler, Jon Moxley is one hell of a talker, able to convey a real-life swagger that few of his contemporaries can match. Whilst this side of his personality was fully unleashed once he left WWE, he was by no means a bad promo whilst working for the McMahons. Either as a member of the Shield or during his singles run, the man then known as Dean Ambrose was always good on a stick. It's just a shame he wasn't always in control of what he was saying. Shortly after turning on Seth Rollins in the wake of Roman Reigns' leukemia diagnosis, Ambrose's character took an abrupt shift from conflicted friend to supervillain germaphobe. On the November 26, 2018 episode of Raw, he cut a promo on the crowd saying how much he detested being in their presence. Pretty simple stuff, or at least it would have been had Ambrose not been receiving inoculations at the time. The sight of the former Maverick getting injected in the arse did little to enhance his silly reputation, and within just a few months, Ambrose was gone from the company for good. Number 7, Roddy Piper's Russo rundown. There is a reason why many people say Roddy Piper should have been WWF champion, because the man was one of the best orators in an era where talking mattered just as much, actually more, as what you could do in the ring. With a style all of his own that often ran close to the edge of madman territory, the Hot Rod delivered many memorable monologues for WWE and WCW. However, this one, from his surprisingly lengthy stint in TNA, very rarely gets looked back on fondly. For the company's weekly pay-per-view on December 4th, 2002, Piper was invited to promote his new autobiography, but things quickly took a different turn when he started shooting on Vince Russo. Piper and Russo hadn't been friends back in WCW, and the kilt-wearing megastar took this opportunity to tell the writer exactly what he thought of him. The Hall Hall of Famer made things extremely personal with Russo, even going so far as to blame him for the tragic death of Owen Hart. He went completely off topic, making no effort to tie his tirade back to any TNA storylines as the audience just sat there uncomfortably, waiting for the madness to end. Number 6, Cody Rhodes ends racism. As the son of the man who delivered the legendary Hard Times speech, Cody Rhodes was always going to be judged based on his ability to string sentences together. Luckily, the grandson of a plumber is a very strong talker, even if he does cry on TV every other week. Rhodes also had a number of great showings in AEW, particularly his undesirable to undeniable promo from the early days of Dynamite. Another memorable address he gave was during his rivalry with Anthony Ogogo, although not for the reasons he would have wanted. The feud was pitched as America versus the UK, and in a baffling move, Cody took it upon himself to champion people of colour, explaining how he was a good guy because he was the father of a biracial child. Not only did this have nothing to do with Ogogo, but it was also super cringy to watch Rhodes try to promote American values at a time where public opinion of the US was pretty low. Sorry if that makes you cry, Mr. Rhodes. Quick, somebody get a camera, he's doing it again. Number 5, Ric Flair's bloody mess. The man whom Cody's father was feuding with when he talked about Hard Times was none other than Ric Flair, who is also very good at flapping his gums. Whatever Flair did, he did it with the energy of a nuclear-powered jackhammer, cutting wild and frenetic promos across the country as NWA champion, making everyone either fall in love with him or want to see him get battered by their local babyface. Unfortunately, for all that talent, Flair was always something of a loose cannon, a trend that continued as he got older. In the build-up to his match with Randy Orton at Taboo Tuesday 2004, Flair cut a promo on Raw where he took umbrage with the young star's perceived disrespect. He said that if he was a legend, then Orton must be a virgin, and then uttered the immortal line, "Do you know how many virgins I've made holler and scream and bleed?" Yikes. This was a mightily inappropriate thing for Flair to say and should definitely not have made it to TV. WWE have tried to cover it up by removing this segment from the network, but we remember WWE. We all remember. Number 4, John Cena's Rumble Ramble. Even when he was at his most divisive, it was hard to call John Cena a bad promo. He might have been cheesier than Cheddar Gorge and so transparently corporate, no wonder you couldn't see him, but the guy has always been confident on the mic and is usually able to bring great babyface fire to a segment. Well, unless he goes off on a massive tangent about Call of Duty. In the lead up to the 2013 Royal Rumble, which Cena would go on to win, the star addressed the Monday Night Raw crowd and started talking about the concept of Sundays. He then called out some kid in the crowd for beating him at Call of Duty Black Ops 2 before revealing his username on the game was Skidmarks187. Okay then. Cena just kept on going too, stringing random thoughts together about blow-up dolls and Taylor Swift, neither of whom were going to be in the Rumble that weekend. As a regular promo, this was baffling, but as a last-minute promotional spot for one of your biggest matches of the year, in the words of the gaming community at the time, what a scrub. Number 3, Paul Heyman's Survivor Series shocker. Paul Heyman has not always been a reliable man in his life. I mean, just ask anybody who worked for ECW in the year of, well, ever. I think they're still waiting for those checks to clear. One thing Paulie can usually be relied upon for is a great promo, as he's one of the most verbose, concise, and complete talkers wrestling has ever seen. This is why, when Heyman delivered an absolutely horrible speech in the lead up to Survivor Series 2016, the wrestling world was shocked to its core. Heyman was supposed to be bigging up his client Brock Lesnar ahead of his much-hyped rematch with Goldberg at the event. However, as soon as the microphone went up to his lips, the former Mr. Dangerously lost all sense of composure and decorum. The usually silky smooth wise man fumbled his lines, got baited by the crowd, and gave off massive rabbit-in-the-headlights vibes. And it's not like Lesnar could have jumped in and saved his manager. I mean, we all remember how awful those promos were in 2012, don't we? Heyman does not slip up often, but when he does, it's quite the sight. Number 2, Jake Roberts counts cards. Jake the Snake Roberts has lived a hard life, not helped by his well-documented issues with substance abuse. Unfortunately, this has often come at the expense of his work, and there is no greater example of this than the ill-fated 1999 pay-per-view Heroes of Wrestling. This utterly terrible terrible show was supposed to feature a match between Roberts and Jim Neidhart, but the Snake was in no condition to perform or do anything for that matter. This was demonstrated when he gave one of the saddest promos of all time shortly before the bell rung. A clearly under the influence Jake stumbles his way through a slurred collections of sounds, including his now infamous "Wanna Play 21" line that now lives forever thanks to our pal Mafu. The worst part of this whole ordeal was that Roberts had once been one of the greatest promo merchants on planet Earth. His slow, sinister style of delivery was a revelation in an era of coked-up shouting, and his great speeches are still studied by budding sports entertainers to this very day. Heroes of Wrestling was a bad time all around, but it will also always be remembered as one of the lowest points of a troubled icon. Number 1, Hulk Hogan's right gay guy. He might have been talking absolute rubbish most of the time, but Hulk Hogan was so damn charismatic that he could have sold out WrestleMania 3 by reading out loud from a Chinese menu. Even during his later WWE run in the 2000s, Hogan could still drive the fans wild on the mic. But then came the March 6th, 2003 episode of SmackDown, where the Hulkster unwittingly came out to thousands of people. During a promo off with Vince McMahon over who had the biggest impact in wrestling, Hogan went on to say something about being the right guy in the right place. But he must have got his moustache caught in his mouth or something, because what he actually said was, "I was just the right gay guy." This incredible slip-up is made even better by the fact that this was actually the Hulkster's second attempt at the promo after he got it wrong the first time. Honestly, this whole segment is glorious from top to bottom, as iconic as anything Hogan said in the 80s, and is proof that even the greatest talkers in the world sometimes have their off days.